Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Social Contract, a Commander podcast. I'm Mike Allman, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Alec Lapp. Alex, what's up again?
Well, Mike, we didn't actually finish that set review last time, so we're going to get back in there and take care of the rest of these. And this time, it's going to be the multicolored spells.
The multicolored and the no-colored.
And the no-colored, exactly.
Yeah. I'm excited to get into it. I'm going to try something weird. I think. So first thing I'm going to do, we talked about a lot of cards on the last episode, and we didn't even finish, right?
No, we finished the monocolored.
Well, I meant for the set.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what if somebody got through all of those, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so many cards, I'm so tired, and they didn't listen to like the last couple of minutes of the episode, right? Because they're just so exhausted from all of the cool cards that they're going to get.
Why would they do that?
Well, listen, because sometimes some people have a bad day, I guess. I don't know. What I want to do is justify the idea of putting out our affiliate link in the beginning of the episode rather than the end of the episode, because now I am sure people have to listen to it twice. You know what I mean?
Go for it.
Okay, so hey everybody, any of the cards that we've talked about, any of the cards that we're about to talk about, all the cool stuff to have awesome social interaction at your table with EDH, you should pick them up because obviously, why wouldn't you? And if you do so, if you go to bit.ly/EDH_social, we'll put a link on our show notes here, you're going to be able to support us by doing so. That takes you to our affiliate link at TCG Player, where you can buy all of the cards, deck boxes, sleeves, playmats, etc., everything that they have to offer, and you're going to be able to help out our little operation here at the same time. And well, first of all, thanks. We appreciate that. And second of all, we know that you're out there listening and you're buying cool stuff that we're talking about. We appreciate that. Speaking of buying cool stuff, Alex, I think we should go with the colorless cards first, just because there's only a couple, and we're going to hit so many multicolored cards that have so many options, and they're commanders and so much card text. I want to talk about these things first. Give me a palate. It's not a cleanser. Give me an appetizer to all of the cool stuff we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I was going to suggest something similar, that we should do the spells first, and then after that, we'll do the commanders.
Okay.
So that the commanders don't overshadow all these cool spells. Because, holy moly, these commanders, Mike.
Right. So, okay, we're going to talk three things today then, okay? If I've got this right. We're going to talk colorless cards. We're going to talk multicolored, non-legendary spells.
I mean, the colorless cards and the multicolored, non-legendary spells are the same.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if our listeners need to hear this discussion.
No, I love it. Let them know. This is what we go through every time.
Well, let's go ahead and get started with their plain Jane colorless spells, and we're going to start with one that's fascinating.
It's great,
to be honest with you.
Yes, False Floor. I'm very excited about this card.
Yeah,
Alex.
What on earth is this thing, Mike?
4 for an artifact. False Floor enters the battlefield tapped. Creatures enter the battlefield tapped. So we've got a tempo effect. We've got it's cool. All right, fine. Pay 2. Tap False Floor, exile False Floor, exile all untapped creatures, activate only as a sorcery. I love the shenanigans of this card.
Oh my gosh, Mike.
I love the shenanigans of this card.
This is Navinural's disc level rattlesnake. Like, no one is allowed to play the game without thinking about the implications of what creatures they do and do not have untapped when you could ostensibly activate this on your turn.
Right.
People aren't going to want to leave anything up.
Well, and here's the thing. Nev's disc is a heck of a rattlesnake, right?
Yes.
But it is a I don't know about that. Well, do they want to wipe their board too? Maybe not.
Right.
You can usually see Nev's disc coming. As far as when is the situation that they're going to blow up the world, right? Mm-hmm. With False Floor, it's a little bit more limited because it's sorcery speed for the activation and it only deals with creatures. But as a person who's in charge and the person who owns False Floor, being able to just be like, hey, you know what? You need to tap all these creatures because if they are untapped, they're within threat range if it gets to my turn. I like that a lot.
This is just, it's so dangerous. I've been talking specifically about exiling people's creatures, and not just exiling them, but threatening to exile them, right? There's this feeling that if they are on the ball enough that they could, prevent it. They don't, just play it safe, right? They leave all their creatures tapped down. They just never have any blockers. Or they are always attacking and just incidentally have no blockers, or they just don't play out any creature spells. That chilling effect that we see with Nev's Disc, where people are not willing to play out their spells because they're worried. Yeah. And the game slows down.
And you think about it too, it does have the exact same effect that way for creatures with Nev's Disc, because you cast a creature, unless you have a way to tap it the second, that turn, it's gonna have summoning sickness. It's very hard to tap that creature unless you've got other onboard effects that are allowing you to tap it for a different reason. So a lot of people aren't going to cast their creatures anymore. Oh, except for no, never mind. The creatures enter tapped. Okay, all right. The card is more fair. I do like it.
That's the interesting aspect, right? Is you say it as though that stacks aspect is making the card more fair because it makes them not vulnerable to being destroyed, to being exiled on their first go around the table.
Right.
But this is also stopping people from playing out creatures as blockers at all. There is no, let me just put down a flasher blocker and let me make a token to defend myself. This is a very aggressive style piece. This is a piece that I think I've said this several times before in our previous review, but it wouldn't feel out of place in a forced combat deck.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this, and it's kind of funny. I made a Thantis deck a couple weeks ago before the spoilers started coming out.
Yeah.
And I made an Atraxa deck based off of our conversation we had very recently.
That was a great one.
And I went, this set basically just says, hey, enjoy these 2 decks that you made.
Yeah, make
because
the deck
here's
again.
here's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And False Floor is a pretty cool card, and I do like it. Let's talk about another weird card. As far as, I don't know if a forced combat deck, but definitely one you have to think about.
It's quite a little rattlesnakey.
It's got a lot of oomph to it, at least word-wise. Why don't you talk to me about Weathered Sentinels?
Yeah, this is an interesting one here. Weathered Sentinels is 3 generic for an artifact creature wall, and hang on to your hats, people. Defender, Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. It's a 2/5. Weathered Sentinels can attack players who attacked you during their last turn as though it didn't have Defender. And whenever Weathered Sentinels attacks, it gets +3/+3 and gains indestructible until end of turn. So when everything is moving, falling into place here, we have a 5/8 with indestructible, vigilance, reach, and trample, and it loses Defender. Basically, it doesn't have it. It's interesting because typically a body alone is not something that is desirable to commander players in general, no matter how good the body is, unless it's like really, really high step. But even then, right, we have these enormous creatures. We have like the 16/16 Impervious Great Worm that's trample and indestructible, I believe, whatever it has. But we have the big boys, the big Eldrazi, the Stompies. Usually those have some kind of utility on them, like Critterhoof Behemoth. Eldrazi have these big casting or ETB effects, whereas this is just a body. But it's a body with a lot of keywords that maybe keyword soup decks like this.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going with it in the first position.
Yeah.
Because keyword soup, this is pretty good. Honestly,
that's starting to be a deck type.
Arcades, just as a defender, it doesn't, because it still has Defender. It just can attack as though it doesn't have Defender. So that's pretty cool aspect.
An 8/8, basically.
Yeah, and an 8/8 vigilance, reach, trample, blah, blah,
indestructible.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know. Even if it's just a 3-mana artifact, it's not bad.
Once upon a time, artifact creatures cost way more. Like you'd get a 3/3 for 7.
Yeah.
Just like those old Leviathans we were talking about last episode with the downsides.
Yeah. Oh, it's generic mana. Well, you can pay anything
you
with
can
that,
pay
so we should make it more expensive.
Exactly. You got to make it worse.
And now
3/3 for 5 or something.
And now it's more of a, hey, does the deck get infinite mana 50% yes, 50% no, as far as just in a build?
And
Is
we
it
have to
possible?
talk about the reason why I've picked it here, and that's that it can only attack if you've been attacked.
By that person.
By that same player, exactly.
Yes. Which is good. It's a very good rattlesnake. It's I mean, in Artifact Matters decks, in keyword soup decks, things like that, 3 mana, that ain't bad. It's not a bad return on value.
It has the vigilance, so attacking as indestructible, it's going to stay up, and then it's going to remain a blocker.
I dig it a lot.
It can block flyers. It's going to beat in for damage. I don't know. It has utility on it. This is definitely not like a, oh my gosh card, but this is...
no.
You know, we want to talk about these little rattlesnakes too, because this could see fit in anything that's combat damage matters, flying men, unblockable, all that good stuff. It's
silly. I kind of want to put it in my forced combat deck.
Yeah, kind of. It's like, hey, you can attack me, but I've got a statue. I'm going to beat you with a statue.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You have to attack. You have to attack somebody with that 1/1 mana door, or with that 1/1 whatever. And by the way, if you attack me with it, I'm going to come back at you with a 5/8 vigilance trample, indestructible. Let's go.
And it So we had those
pretty solid.
Those 2 colorless spells. No lands that we were too into in this set, but that's you can't expect every set to have Boseiju. What do we have in Kamigawa? My god. Yeah. These channel lands, we can't have those in every set, Mike.
I pulled 2 of the Boseiju and just went,
Did
you know
you
what, this
really?
is fine. I did.
Lucky.
And I ended up ordering a lot of singles from that set, but I like to get a box if I can, just because I like doing the draft stuff, you know.
I just kind of buy list the singles, dude. Like at this point, I just buy list them. I don't make an effort to go out like, oh, I got to get it, because I know that it's going to be expensive right off the bat. We've got a hookup, refer to affiliate link. So, I see what you're doing. Okay, so we have a lot of multicolored spells. I'd like to start with the non-commander multicolored spells so that we can get to that juicy stuff in the back half of the episode. So we have a couple of cycles here, this new charm cycle, and we have new confluence cycle based on these new 3-color guilds that we have. They're not wedges. They're not shards. They're the new Capenna guilds, and we have some spells that we were interested in. The charm cycle's uncommon, so we'll keep that in mind as we look at these spells. First one is Obscura Charm. This is white, blue, black. That's 3 mana for an instant. Choose 1. Return target multicolored permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Or counter target instant or sorcery spell. Or destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. Mike, this is not bad. This is some really good options on there.
3 mana specific counterspell with different options. Good. 3 mana, return a multicolored permanent. Multicolored permanent with mana value 3 or less is a decent amount of hoops, but it's not bad as an alternate option on a 3 mana counterspell.
Right. You would definitely want to take a look at your deck list to see how many permanents that would hit. But I bet in some decks that hits almost all of them.
Yeah, there's one. There's got to be a couple. But destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less on top of everything else. Yeah. Those are both really good. Instant speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is worth saying, right? We look at these more restricted counterspells like Swan Song and then like those really esoteric counterspells like Warping Whale, counter target sorcery spell. I don't think people appreciate that some of the most devastating spells, the ones that you really don't want to happen, spot removal, wiping the board, taking an extra turn, all of these are instant and sorcery effects. And those can't be spot removed, right? You have to deal with them now or you never get to. And that's why these more limited counterspell effects that only hit instant and sorcery like Obscura Charm, you can't just write that off like it's not a real counterspell. It is.
Yeah, I mean, let's be totally frank about it. White, blue, black, that's not a fun counterspell. But...
No. But that's an option.
it's an option onto like, if this was white black, destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less.
Broken.
That'd be great. But even if it was just that was just the one option. That'd be a really good card.
Yeah. White black.
Adding blue to give it the counterspell ability and for the again, I feel like the return target multicolored permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. I feel like that's the worst of the 3 options.
I mean, here's the other thing you consider, right? Is that some people, and especially in white, blue, black, you're running a low to the ground commander that you might be sending to the graveyard anyway to reanimate.
That's where I'm at. It's overall, I think it's like of the 3 options that I could have on a card, it's probably the one that I would be the least excited about.
Right.
But in those 3 colors, in a deck that I think this would fit into, because it also fits those other aspects, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to use it for that. There's a lot of pieces that are multicolored permanents of 3 or less that you want to get back onto the battlefield, because that can be what makes your deck sing, right? And I like Obscura Charm as a uncommon, hey, it's not going to be busted.
Yep.
It's going to be versatile.
That is the thing, right?
That's enough.
For an instant, the requirements are a little different for the modal options, right? Because for an instant, you have to hold that mana up if you want to cast it as an instant and not just basically as a sorcery on your own turn. And when you're holding mana up, it's good to be prepared for multiple different situations, because what if you don't need to counter anything? You're holding the mana up anyway. You can use that opportunity to reanimate, or you can hold that counter spell.
Right.
Being able to hold mana up for multiple different options at once, again, like you said, even though they are uncommon level options, still worth a look. And this will, as an uncommon, be very cheap.
Yeah. If you top deck this, I don't think you get it and say, well, there's no opportunity I'm ever going to have any.
It'll sit in your hand until you need it.
Yeah, it's a good card. Okay. So what do you got for me next?
That is the only charm. There are other charms in the cycle, but they aren't really in our wheelhouse. That one I picked out as a as counter magic, which is something that we do care about.
They're good. They're interesting, but
you can check out your favorite guild's charms, see what you got. But let's look at the confluences. These are more designed for Commander. They are in the Commander set part of New Capenna. Let's look at Obscura Confluence and we'll kind of see those differences. This one costs an additional mana. It's 1 generic, white, blue, black. That's 4 mana total for an instant with choose 3. That is how confluences go. You may choose the same mode more than once. First mode is until end of turn. Target creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 1/1. Very nice. Second option, target creature connives. Now, for those of us just joining us, connive is draw a card, then discard a card. If you discarded a non-land card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Okay? And the third option is target player returns a creature card from their graveyard to their hand.
It's a good card.
So we can choose all 3 of those, or any combination of the 3. You choose the same one 3 times. Mike, what mode... Here's my question to you. If you were to cast this just in general, what would you say your default mode selection would tend toward?
If I'm casting it, I'm probably going to make target creature lose all abilities, have base power, and toughness 1/1, and then do 2 other cool things.
Yeah.
You know, like the idea of, hey, your commander is going to do something silly. I'm going to make it a 1/1 that does nothing else, and I'm going to put these 2 creatures into my hand. Or, you know, if I've got a creature on the field and I want to loot a little bit. Cool. I'll connive. You know, it's a good, I like the confluence. I like the, choose 3. You can choose the same thing multiple times.
Right.
Heck, if there's a damage board wipe. Okay, great. Those 3 8/8s are now 1/1s. Make sure it hits everything. It's I like Obscura Confluence.
The other thing, this could eat an Alpha Strike, right? Because an Alpha Strike usually relies on a few creatures at the top end and then a bunch of little guys to clean it up, maybe. So you have somebody's commander, like you said, right now it's in 1/1. It doesn't matter what's equipped on it, what's enchanted onto it with any auras. This is a newer timestamp, so it's going to lose all of those abilities until end of turn and be base toughness and power 1/1. This reminds me of Sudden Spoiling. It's 1 black, black, and instant with split second until end of turn. Creatures target player controls lose all abilities, and at base power and toughness 0/2. That has a lot of versatility, and I think the first mode of Obscura Confluence has a lot of that versatility as well, offense and defense.
Yeah, it's the confluences are always kind of interesting,
right?
Because again, it's hey, we're going to pay a little bit more mana, and we're going to do extra stuff. But I mean, heck, 4 mana for even if it's draw 2, discard 2, and this thing gets base power 1/1 and loses all abilities. I feel like that's a really good return on value.
Yeah.
So I'm all for Obscura Confluence. That's pretty good. Okay, so let's talk about Obscura Interceptor. So this is 1 white, blue, black again, Obscura for this set. For a 3/1 Cephalid wizard with flash and lifelink, and when Obscura Interceptor enters the battlefield, it connives. When it connives this way, return up to 1 target spell to its owner's hand. So again, you're going to draw a card, discard a card. If you discard a non-land card, you put a +1/+1 counter on that creature, which in this case is the Obscura Interceptor. But 3/1 flash, lifelink, get back a spell, or put a spell back into its owner's hand.
Yeah, remand a spell.
Yeah, so it's a weird. It's not a counter spell, but like you said, it's a good remand.
It's closest to Mystic Snake,
cool.
right?
Yeah,
like it's a flash in creature counter spell, but it doesn't. It remands it.
I dig it.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because you get that loot effect. You can ostensibly potentially make it a 4/2 with lifelink. Mm-hmm. It's also a wizard, right?
Yeah. So do the effects multiple times,
right?
Lots of wizard
Dean of Iteration where you get two remands now. Interesting.
Yeah. It's a cool little creature here. Let's say I play Approach of the Second Sun.
You love that spell so much.
Well, it's a card that says you win the game if you cast it twice. I think that's silly. If I cast that spell, and then I Obscura Interceptor, and I cast that spell, but it goes back to my hand, if I then cast it again right after that, do I win? Because it doesn't say it has to resolve, right?
Approach of the Second Sun requires you to have cast it before. So if the first time that you cast it, it gets bounced, and then you cast it again, and that time it resolves, then that satisfies the requirement and you will win the game.
There you go. Cool.
So don't remand Approach of the Second Sun. Always hard counter it.
Fair enough.
Or just let him win.
Yeah, or just let him win.
Yeah, either way, really.
But yeah, no, it's Obscura Interceptor is cool in your own stuff, but also just the fairness of, hey, you can have that spell, but now's not the time. We're just gonna put that back there. No.
What if we don't want them to have that permanent? Now's not the time. What Obscura based spell would we use then?
Well, I mean, if you want that, we can move on to our next one, which is Void Rend. It's very direct. So white, blue, black, instant. This spell can't be countered, so there is that. Destroy target non-land permanent. Gone. Okay.
Yeah, effective.
Man, the idea of destroy that, can't counter it for 3 mana. It's pretty good, right? There's a lot of, destroy target permanent or exile target permanent that are pretty cheap. But
yeah, those go down to 2 at this point, but uncounterable kind of adds on to that cost.
It really does. I think the more competitive that you're playing, the more that you're in for that.
Well, when you're whipping this one out, this is when it's right. Maybe you're on like turn 8 or 9, and it's like, listen, if you don't kill that Keurig, we're all going to lose the game.
Right.
And they're sitting with a counterspell in hand because they're about to try to win. That's where uncounterable can really make a big difference.
It's good. It's really good. I like Void Rend is just no, I have the answer. Back off.
Right.
So
there's not that much removal that can't be countered. I know Supreme Verdict is a board wipe that can't be countered, but there was Abrupt Decay. That's the other famous spot removal that can't be countered.
Yeah.
anyway.
Void Render, and also non-land permanent. Very good. Lots of options.
This will hit anything but a land, and that is
your Gaia's Cradle is safe for now. That's it. Let's move on to our next confluence here. Okay. Maestro's Confluence. 3 blue, black, red. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Return target mono-colored instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Pretty good. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Okay. And goad each creature target player controls. Let's go!
Let's goad.
Let's goad! I like Maestro's Confluence.
Right, we need to talk about this. This is significantly more expensive than Obscura Confluence. This is a 6 mana sorcery, by the way, and the other one's an instant. Mm-hmm. However, for our trouble, we get a very strong mode. Go to each creature target player controls. Where if we just took that, then we could compare it to Disrupt Decorum, right? Which is a 4 mana spell.
Sure.
So for our trouble, we're paying 2 more mana. What other options can we take? We also have getting back an instant or sorcery. And we also have basically -X based spot removal. And that can be scaled up a bit, right? You can give it the -6/6 to -9/9 if you need to.
Sure.
But I mean, do you think you're mainly using goad? And if so, would you not just use Disrupt Decorum?
I mean, here's the thing: how often does it have? How often is there such a bad board state to where you need to goad all 3 other opponents?
I'm not saying that you goad all of them necessarily every time.
Yeah,
but I'm saying that you definitely want to use that mode because it's the best one. In my opinion, it's the best one.
Sure.
But then what else are you filling out the rest of your 3 options with?
Well, return target monocolored instant or sorcery from my graveyard to my hand.
Even like, what's that one instant that we all love so much?
Well, what was the option that you gave me instead of Maestro's Confluence for goading all? What spell did you just refer to?
You could get Disrupt Decorum back.
You could just get Disrupt Decorum.
Yeah. Just cast that again.
Yeah, I'm going to cast Disrupt Decorum.
God.
Okay, Maestro's Confluence. You 2 are goaded. Also, I'm going to get Disrupt Decorum back.
Now, make sure that you don't goad until the following turn because stacking goad doesn't do anything.
There you go. But yeah, I like Maestro's Confluence because the amount of cards returning an instant or sorcery to your hand from your graveyard. So something that was good enough for you to cast before, returning it again. That's a good effect.
Spot removal. That can be mind control. Take an extra turn. Lots of those are monocolor.
It can be a lot of really good cards.
Yeah.
So 6 mana, go bring that back, and then do 2 other things.
How often do you think you're pulling on the -3/-3 effect?
Unless it's killing something, I'm probably not doing it.
Right. I mean, it would have to, right? And to do that, I mean, you'd probably have to use the mode more than once to hit most significant things. So
I guess
that mode feels rather weak, even though it does go through indestructible.
I'll tell you what, though. Okay. Let's say I decided that I wanted to return a sorcery to my hand. I wanted to kill somebody's. I don't know. What's a really scary
Lotus Cobra.
Sure. Okay, that. I was going to say that, or I don't remember what Thrasios is, but I don't think he's super.
Isn't Thrasios like a 2/4? Let me check.
Maybe it's a 2/4. But there's enough commanders that are toughness 3 or less. But if this was
Thrasios is a 1/3. You could hit the Thrasios.
There you go. Right. So let's say I'm going to return a sorcery to my hand. I'm going to kill a Thrasios, and I'm going to goad this other token deck. Awesome. I'll pay 6 mana for that. I'm setting people back, and I'm returning a resource. This player that would be an onboard threat is going to onboard threaten other people for me. And I'm going to set one other person back a little bit. 6 mana, it's a high cost, but it's not a bad card.
Here's the other thing to consider, right? It is 6 mana.
Yeah.
And that is a high cost. It's also a sorcery, which means you're spending your entire turn on this.
Oh, yeah.
Or most of it.
If this was a 6-mana instant, I'd be.
No, I'm not
very
suggesting that it
uncomfortable
could
with
or should be an instant. What I'm
Right.
saying is that you're committing your entire turn to resolving this spell, basically.
But if you're in the right situation, I think that's the thing with all of the confluences. If you're in the right situation, yeah, this is going to be your entire turn. But you are going to set back multiple people, or you are going to just completely wreck one person pretty easily.
Goad is nice because it has this ongoing effect that just kind of keeps people in hysterics. What would you call it? Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, because you said ongoing, and that's not to confuse it. It's that turn that they have to deal, or it's their next turn they have to deal with it. But if you have an effect on your turn that says your blank has to do blank, that really throws off some of the other synergies that you had before. Unless you're drawing cards on everybody's turn, so you're getting new strategies and new effects and new whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
Usually what happens at the end of my turn, I'm going to do this. Great. Next turn, this is what I plan on doing, unless I top deck something or unless the board state changes a lot. Goad is pretty disruptive to all of that.
It is, and Goad can also be used as a form of spot removal, right? Because some of the most valuable creatures, utility creatures like Thrasios, you don't ever want to attack with Thrasios. Why would you ever attack with Thrasios? You're using the ability. But if you goad someone, you force them to attack with all of these utility creatures, which can then be blocked and sent to the graveyard.
Exactly. So, okay, you know what? Another creature that's more than 3 toughness, but you don't want it to attack. Cool. Well, you're going to be the one who's goaded, and I'm going to kill this other thing instead.
And it's also defensive, right? Maybe they plan an Alpha Strike next turn. Okay, well, that Alpha Strike's going. It's not going on you.
It's just not going here.
Right, exactly.
Let's move on to our next one. Why don't you talk to me about our next confluence?
Sure. Riveteer's Confluence. That's the new Jund 2 black, red, green. That's 5 mana for a sorcery. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. First mode, you draw a card and you lose 1 life.
Okay.
Always a good mode. Second option, Riveteer's Confluence deals 1 damage to each creature and planeswalker you don't control.
Okay.
All right. I mean, we've seen some red effects that like to do that sometimes.
Sure.
Third option, you may put a land card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped.
You can't see me, but I'm dancing.
Yeah, that one's nice because that means that between draw a card, lose 1 life, and landfall, this is never a dead card, right?
No.
You're always going to either have a fetch land in your yard or in hand, or want to draw a card to find those lands. So, yeah, we have that middle option that seems to be the odd one out. You can maybe get some utility off of it depending on the kind of deck you're running, maybe a burn deck. But those other 2 modes are almost always applicable, Mike.
5 mana, draw 3, lose 3.
Yeah.
Is not an awesome card, but it's not an unplayable card. Especially if you're not playing blue. So 5 mana, draw a card and lose a life, plus hey, do you have lands in your hand or your graveyard? Go ahead.
This is the other thing we should talk about, right? Is the spell resolves in order. So if you choose the top mode, draw a land with it, then by the time we get to the third mode, you are allowed to put that land that you just drew onto the battlefield.
Right. So you can, you know what, I'm going to draw 2 and
maybe I get a land.
And I'm also going to pick land from my hand in the battle. Yeah. So you got your options here. This is Riveteers. Confluence is a good card. I think it's my favorite of the 3 so far, but that's just because
it's
battle
safer.
cruisery, magic
it's a
guy,
lot
safer.
Yeah,
like the downside, we were talking about the other cards as far as there's something that it can do pretty easily, right? Like I see the value, but I'm always going to see the value in this. It is the safest, it's the easiest, and I always lean ramp if I can help it. Plus a card that ramps you, a card that gives you the opportunity for ramp and draw. It's pretty good. I dig it.
Yeah, this one's quite nice.
Yeah. Let's talk about let's take a break from the the confluences for literally one card here and go to Unleash the Inferno. 1 black, red, green for an instant. Unleash the Inferno deals 7 damage to target creature or planeswalker. When it deals excess damage this way, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to that amount of excess damage. I apologize for reading that card weird. Here's what it is. Deal 7 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and then trample the mana cost of an artifact or enchantment.
There's no easy way to explain this one.
It's so weird.
It's the ultimate 2-for-1 potential, right? It's baked right onto the card. You decide the amount of 2-for-1 you get. Do you blow up the utility creature, and then you have a bunch of mana to hit their big artifacts? I don't know. I think that what you do with this depends a lot more than usual spot removal on what people have. With normal spot removal, you're like, I'll just hit the best thing that somebody has. It's going to cause some problems. With this one, you really need to make that decision very carefully.
And here's the other part of it. Like, everything else aside, say the math on that, you know what, say I've got dumb brain going on right now, okay?
Oh my God, you caught that.
I did. But say I can't do it. I don't know. I don't know. 7 mana for, 7 damage for 4 mana. 7 mana would be a bit much. But 4 mana, 7 damage, it's not a bad return. It's not a great return. It's not a bad return.
Definitely, I mean, I don't necessarily think that the best use is putting unless you're getting something big with all 7. I think that you really want to try to go for the 2-for-1.
But you should, exactly. Yeah. I'm more in the, you know what, if this is deal 6 damage to a creature and blow up a Soul Ring, great.
It's pretty fun.
You know,
that's
and, you know, nobody. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's where we're at. I mean, there's times where disenchant somebody's Soul Ring if they're their first player. That's something that happens all the time. So
this is reminding me of Artifact Mutation has the same kind of gambit, right?
Yeah.
It's spot removal that is rewarding you for choosing a higher mana value artifact because you get more tokens out of it. This one's a little bit different in that you choose the split. It's like, okay, I want to hit it for 2, and then I'm going to take out that 5 CMC artifact, or however you want to split it. You're making a decision based on what's on the board and seeing what you can set up knock down.
But the other part of this is that it has to deal 7 damage, and then the excess is what's done, right? So if somebody has, I mean, it's not often, but if somebody has a pump effect or something like that, well, cool. They still have to use that to save their creature, but it's going to take 7 damage. It's not I'm going to assign 5 damage to this and then 2 damage to that. It's, no, I'm going to assign 7 damage to this. Are there any effects? And then the rest is done. So I kind of like it. As an instant speed. The instant speed is actually what sells me on it. I love the idea of somebody attacking me with a Voltron commander that's equipped with a sword and just, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to deal 5 damage to it and then blow up one of your swords. Or, you know, 4 damage to it and blow up one of your swords, depending on what's going on. I like that as kind of a rebuttal, and Unleash the Inferno is pretty cool to me.
It is an interesting piece of removal here.
Well, you know what? We took a break from our confluences, and I
just keep dragging them right back in.
I hunger for them again. So why don't you talk to me about our next one?
All right. Cabaretti Confluence. Did I do that right?
I don't know if it's got any of the tildes or anything. Yeah. But I'll take it. Sure.
Yeah, Cabaretti Confluence. It's 3 generic. Red, green, white. That's 6 mana again. We're back up there. Sorcery, choose 3. You know how it works. First option, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. It gains haste. And sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Second option, exile target artifact or enchantment. And third option, creatures target player controls get +1/+1 and gain first strike until end of turn. Interesting stuff here.
Hey, I take it back. I think this is my favorite one so far.
You're just saying that because it is an alpha strike right on top of it.
It's not even that, because the alpha strike of +1/+1 and first strike, you know.
But it's also giving you those awesome creature copy effects.
Yeah. Well, my whole thing was there's no bad one on this.
Right, there really isn't.
Yeah, because if you're playing, Cabaretti, but or Naya or whatever you want to call it,
Right.
if you're playing this, you're probably going wide, just because
I think when you play this, you just try to set up your Alpha Strike and just take it right there. Right.
Right. And you can do that. You could, you know what? I'm going to give my creatures +3/+3 in
Get
first
rid of that Chroma's Memorial you have there.
Sure. But even if it's exile 3 artifact or enchantments for 6 mana, it's not the best return, but it's not the worst.
If that needs to happen, the board state was in really bad place.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe you have a lot of cool artifacts and enchantments and you don't want to blow up the entire board. You just want to blow up those terrible, terrible things.
Of course.
Creating tokens of creatures that you control, giving them haste and then doing stuff like, yeah, cool. Love that. Yeah, this is a cool card.
Yeah. I think this, you're right. I think with go wide decks, they're going to find a lot of uses for this one.
All right, let's move on to our last confluence here. Broker's Confluence. 2, green, white, blue. For an instant, we're back to instants. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Proliferate. Gross. Target creature faces out. Also gross. Counter target activated or triggered ability. Also gross. All of these things are words that make me sad and scared and excited and ooh.
This is a strong one. Proliferate is, of course, proliferate. It's very powerful. You choose any number of permanents and or players and then give each another counter of each kind already there. Lots of decks love this, as evidenced by the fact that Atraxa was the most popular commander for, I think, 5 years straight.
Yep. 5 mana, proliferate 3 is
target creature
good.
Phases out is really good.
Yep.
Instant speed. You were talking about Voltron. Well, that's basically going to make their attack just not happen. And incidentally, all of the stuff they had attached to it, if they have any auras or equipment attached to that permanent that phased out, that will also phase out. So you could really host somebody with that. And you can also save your own stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. Phasing out your own stuff makes it almost untouchable. There's almost nothing that can be done other than waiting for it to come back and then hitting it again. Phasing out, it's gone, Mike.
Yeah, I like Broker's Confluence a lot.
This is nice.
Again, you mentioned Atraxa, and I recently built it. And
right.
Phasing out Atraxa,
and then we have counter target activated or triggered ability, and people keep forgetting this fact. That includes Planeswalker loyalty abilities.
Yeah.
You can hit the big ultimate and say, no, I am that guy who's running that spell. I'm that guy. I'm that Magic player, Mike. You don't get to have it. And they already spent the loyalty, and so now it's probably dead, and also you don't get the ultimate effect.
If people are running Planeswalkers in their decks for the specific cause of doing the ultimates, they're probably doing something terrifying. So
probably running a Super Friends deck.
Yeah, the ability to turn it off feels pretty good. Good job, Broker's Confluence. We've got one more non-commander spell that I want to talk about, and I like it. Soul of Emancipation, 4 green, white, blue, so 7 mana for a 5/7 creature avatar. When Soul of Emancipation enters the battlefield, destroy up to 3 other target non-land permanents. For each of those permanents, its controller makes a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying.
Mike, it's Terastodon.
It's Terastodon!
It's Terastodon 2.0.
I think it's more fun Terastodon.
Right, Terastodon can't hit creatures. So usually people use it to hit lands. Yeah, that's usually what people do. This one can't hit lands. And it also hands out a
3/3 flyers.
A much more attractive creature token. Yeah. It's good enough that I can imagine a situation where you just get rid of 3 of your 1/1s and give yourself 9 flying power.
If you want to be the nicest version of this card, absolutely.
No,
and you
probably
can do
hit your
that.
opponent's stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I'm fine with that. And the non-land permanents, cool.
Yeah.
And I'm all for destroying non-land permanent unless that, land is a glacial chasm or something where it's, oh, well, I can't win now because you have that on the board. So Yeah, Soul of Emancipation is pretty good. I like that it is slightly less buff, slightly lower costed, but more difficult costed Terastodon.
I think this is like Rune's new best friend. Any Blink deck that can run this.
Oh yeah.
What an ETB. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. No, it does some good work here. Yeah, good job, Soul of Emancipation. So those are the non-legendary spells that we're talking about here. What of all of those? And we can include our colorless cards as well. What do you think of all of those as your favorite of what we've talked about?
Gosh. I think it might just be False Floor.
Here's the thing. I knew it wasn't False Floor for me.
Okay.
But I knew that I like it a lot, and I was looking through everything, and I'm like, I bet Alex is going to pick False Floor.
It's devastating. It's like, we talk about Nev's Disc all the time. We talk about Rattlesnakes all the time. I don't think that people properly appreciate the chilling effect, right? That's the true power of stacks. It's not just that people aren't able to play their stuff. It's also that you make them less willing to play it of their own volition. They don't want to play their stuff.
Right.
So now you have two different things making people basically give up, which means they make really bad decisions and you can lock the game out and win. But even if you're not playing that mean, it still is going to have that effect. People are going to feel it. They're like, man, I don't want to play a creature into that. Are you nuts?
You're making people think.
Exactly.
And playing the games in the games it's fun. It's great. It's probably the wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer, Mike.
I like Riveteer's Confluence a lot. The problem is every deck that I would play it in, I actually probably can't. I can't play it in Vivictus because that is a deck that the subtype that I have for it is there. No, it's all permanents.
Right,
Oops,
limits.
all permanents.
Exactly.
I guess maybe I put it in Vantis, but I probably don't. So it's my favorite card, but there's not a whole lot of places I want to use it anywhere.
Yeah.
Soul of Emancipation just makes me smile. Just, hey, here's my 7 mana 5/7. Blow that up, blow that up, blow that up. Have some angels. You're literally destroying their permanents, sending them to heaven, giving them an angel.
Oh, Lord.
Like, it's such a silly card that already has like a meaner predecessor. It's like, you know what? We're going to do this again, but we're going to make it a little bit different.
This is cheaper than Terastodon by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just in the, you have to have the green, you have to have the white, you have to have the blue.
Sure.
But yeah, it's less aggressively costed for sure. And I like it. I like it a lot. But as much as I like that card, we're going to get into the commanders here.
Oh, boy.
And
what a commander selection, Mike.
A lot of words, a lot of things, and
politics.
We're probably going to have some very differing opinions on a couple of them, which I'm always excited about.
Fight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But we're going to do that after a quick break. We're going to talk commanders. I'm excited. There's a lot of commanders.
I'm excited too.
First one, I'll hold back on the Dolly Parton jokes, even though
come on.
All right, Jolene, the Plunder Queen. 2 red, green for a 2/2 legendary creature, human warrior. Whenever a player attacks one or more of your opponents, that attacking player creates a treasure token. If you would create one or more treasure tokens, instead create those tokens plus an additional treasure token. Sacrifice 5 treasures. Put 5 +1/+1 counters on Jolene. This is a fun card.
This is just wacky.
I love it. Force combat. Yes, more. Encourage attacking.
Combat,
yes, let's go. Jolene the Plunder Queen is very good. I'm glad that she is just, quote unquote, a 2/2.
Right.
I'm a big fan of that. I am a big fan of everybody attacking and trying not to attack you. This is a cool card.
You need to include a lot more incentive than that, though, right? Because no matter how many creatures they declare as attackers and no matter how many opponents that they attack those creatures with, they're still only going to make exactly one treasure at most per turn. We got to really pump that up. We got to add in more effects.
You say that, but if all things are equal and I can attack you and get a treasure, or I can attack somebody else and not get a treasure, if everything else is equal, I'm going to attack you.
That's
right?
true, but nothing else will ever be equal, Rhett, because unless the board state is completely empty, which sometimes it is, there's going to be who is the blocker, who do I need to deal with? You know, I feel that Jolene would definitely want to stack the deck, and in red and green she can.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Jolene is very cool. Here's the thing. I like it when a legendary creature, I say, oh, this fits into a 99 of a lot of stuff. And I would also be totally comfortable running this as the commander of a deck. Jolene hits that. I like her. I like her a lot. Good job. Good start. Let's talk about something completely the opposite, specifically because it includes all the other colors but red and green. Why don't you talk to me about Tivit?
Sure. Tivit, Seller of Secrets, is 3 white, blue, black, 6 mana for a legendary creature Sphinx Rogue. It's a 6/6 with flying and ward 3.
Those are very good things.
And it has Consul's Dilemma. Whenever Tivit enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, starting with you, each player votes for evidence or bribery. For each evidence vote, investigate. For each bribery vote, create a treasure token. While voting, you may vote an additional time.
They made a voting commander.
Wow. This is the voting commander. This is the one.
Yeah.
You know, people used to use whatever they use, send triplets, just cards in these color combinations just to get access to the voting effects. But finally we have a voting commander.
So, is it weird that I think this is busted?
It's pretty solid.
It's ward 3 on a 6/6 flyer for 6 that's just good. That's just good. It's not crazy, but it's good. Enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, and it has flying, and it has ward 3. So it's got a couple of different versions of onboard evasion. You're gonna make what's gonna likely happen every time. You're gonna make 3 clues and 2 treasures. That's solid.
Yeah, I think that you personally will usually want to pick the treasure token.
Right.
And that your opponents will tend to prefer to give you clue tokens because I think that for the most part, treasure tokens are just better. Treasure tokens give you immediate access to mana, whereas clue tokens require a mana investment to get out the card draw. It's not that clue tokens are bad, it's just that treasure tokens are busted.
But okay, let's say instead this card said when it enters the battlefield or attacks, make 2 clue tokens and crack a clue, because that's what I read it as. I'm going to get 2 treasure tokens and I can use those treasure tokens immediately to use one of those clues, still have the other tokens, and be in pretty good shape.
I don't know if I would call this busted or too strong or broken. I think that it's not broken. This is at an appropriate power level for the mana that it costs. Ward 3 obviously does make it difficult to spot.
It makes a big difference. Yeah.
It does. But if the board gets wiped and you have to cast this again, that's painful. That hurts a lot.
I mean, depending on how many treasure tokens you've gotten at that point. But yes. I just like that we've wanted a bunch of different things. We've wanted a curse commander, and then they brought us curse commanders. Right. We've wanted a voting commander, and they brought us a vote commander. I'm glad that they didn't, because it was so on theme, they didn't make it a bad card outside of it. A 6/6 flying ward 3 that enters and whenever it deals damage have this cool effect, but you get this effect twice, and you get this effect for other voting effects.
Right, that's the other nice thing is the deck that you make with this, the commander is just extra value, right? You don't need the commander to be on the battlefield to be able to run your voting deck. It just makes your voting deck better when it's on the battlefield.
We finally found a way to make Expropriate better. Finally, thank
Oh,
goodness.
God. We finally broke Expropriate, everybody.
Yeah, we did it, everybody. Speaking of finally breaking something, Lord Xander, the Collector.
My God.
4 blue, black, red for a 6/6 legendary creature, vampire, demon, noble. When Lord Xander, the Collector, enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half the cards in their hand, rounded down. Whenever Lord Xander attacks, defending player mills half their library, rounded down. When Lord Xander dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control, rounded down. When target player casts Lord Xander, everybody cries, rounded up.
That last part's not in there, but Mike hits
it's implied.
Mike hits an important point here. This is the kill on sightingest commander that has ever been.
But it's not. That's the problem. It's the counter on sight. It's the exile on sight. You don't kill it on sight. Killing on sight bad.
Yeah. You just can't let it resolve. And if somebody puts it down on the table, you can't let them also sit at that table. You can't let them playing the game resolve. You have to eject them from the game store. Don't actually do that. But seriously, this thing is really powerful. So,
okay. Quick diatribe here. I made blind commander decks for my play group at one point. I told them either give me an effect that you want and I'll make a deck for you, or give me a commander that you've always wanted to play, but you haven't ever made the deck, and I'll make a deck for you. And one of them picked Child of Alara. And and my first thought was, I should be concerned about you. Are you okay?
Exactly. You should.
But then I made Child of Alara, and all it was ramp, weird pump effects, and instant speed black spells that say when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield with a +1/+0 counter or something, weird stuff like that to just bring it back out. And I think this is another deck where it's, you know what, I'm going to play this. And if I'm going to play this, I don't want to play it with all the other terrible effects that encourage all this. No.
Does it even matter?
I'm just going to try and let people kill this thing. It doesn't matter. Holy cow, this is messed up card.
So oppressive. This is just this is how you make enemies and not friends, right?
Well, we have you said enemies. You said enemies, plural. Right. Yes. Would this card be better or worse if it was each opponent? I know it'd be more powerful if it was each opponent, but I would be more comfortable playing that than target player feels really, really bad every time. Oh, man.
ATBs, somebody's losing half their hand.
Yep.
Which, gross.
Yep.
When it attacks, somebody's milling half their library. So, way stronger than, what's our good boy Eldrazi, the Titan.
Oh, goodness.
It's Ulamog. Right. So Ulamog, the main thing about Ulamog, obviously other than being an enormous 10/10 indestructible body, and that you get the 2 exile, the main thing about Ulamog that people are actually scared about is exiling the top 20 cards of someone's library when they attack. That's really scary because people already don't like mill, but at least with mill you have an option to maybe get something back. Exile in the top 20. That's pretty devastating. But milling half of someone's library
seems rough. Hope they don't play Bruvek.
Oh, gosh. That just ends the game. And then when he dies, sacrifice half the non-land permanents that player controls. What do you even say? This is you can't let this hit the table. It's too good.
Again, it's not remove on sight. It's remove before it can be seen.
It's counter on before I see it. It's.
I'm gonna play. I'm gonna tap 7 and I'm gonna cast Lord. No, I don't even care what the rest of the words are.
Sudden substitution and gain control of that spell.
Oh, gross! I don't want that either. No, I don't want it to be on my battlefield either. Then people are going to be mad at me.
I mean, this is you.
Why is it a 6/6?
Don't bring this to your local game store. It's a bad idea. This is Keurig. This is Urza. This is Old Narset. This is the kind of thing that even if you're thinking that you built it fair, you can't, because this commander, all you have to do is cast it and you just start destroying your opponent's ability to play the game.
Is it a 6/6 because they wanted it to be very tough and scary as well? Or is it a 6/6 because they wanted to make sure that it wasn't so like low in toughness that you couldn't kill it on your own as easily?
I think they made it a 6/6 so that they could make the casting cost 7 mana.
Sure. All right.
Because if they made this like a 1/1 and it costs like 4 mana or 5,
what I'm saying is, if this was a 2/2 and it still cost 7 mana, I'd get it. Like, right. I'd understand it. You know what I'm saying? So the 6/6, I'm just sitting here. Is it a 6/6 because, it's 7 mana? Don't worry about what the other effects are. Like, yeah, they're good, so we have to give it a good power and toughness. Or is it a 6/6 because, oh no, we don't want people to be able to do 2 damage to this on their own creature and kill it, and then just, gross.
Lord Xander is too good.
He's too beautiful and
let's talk about
for this
a card that makes me happy instead of a card that makes me sad.
Sounds great.
Parnesi, help me out.
Parmesan, the subtle brush.
Parmesan, the subtle brush. 2 blue, black, red for a legendary creature. Vampire wizard. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless that player pays 4 life. And whenever you copy a spell, up to 1 target opponent may also copy that spell. They may choose new targets for that copy. She's a 4/4.
Big fan.
Mike, this just created copy tribal group hug.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it weird that my only sad thing about this card is that there's not green? So I can't be like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and, hey, you're gonna rampant growth as well, friend. Let's go.
Right.
I like this card.
This is so cool.
Decent cost, and it's not an aggressive countermeasure, right? Like essentially it becomes ward, pay 4 life, and for every permanent you control, and I'm pretty fine with that. You know, it's not crazy. 4/4 sticks around, but yeah, copy tribal and up to 1. I almost wish that it wasn't up to 1. I wish it was choose an opponent, so you had to do it.
I consider myself, if I were to build this deck, I would have to do it every time.
That would be a rule, yeah.
The rule is that I always have to pick an opponent, no matter what, who gets to copy the spell.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just not copying a spell.
Yeah. You might win the game, but you'll lose the war if that's the case. No, you know what? I can't let anybody copy this. Well, then you lose. Sorry.
There are a lot of effects in the game that allow you to copy arbitrary spells. Most of them are in red and blue. Mm-hmm. And, well, Mike, I think this is going to be a really interesting deck. I have to wonder how other people would build this, right? How would you make this something that doesn't benefit your opponents? Because most players don't want to do that.
Do
you think that you copy like a bad spell? I don't understand what you would do, or do they just not understand her at all?
I don't think this card was made with the idea of traditional EDH.
So you think they're just scratching their heads on this one?
Yeah. Because this
is a group hug girl right here.
Well, again, here's the way that you would read this spell if it wasn't somebody who was looking for group hug sharing, social interaction as opposed to board interaction. 5 mana for a 4/4 legendary creature vampire wizard. Permanents you and permanents you control have ward pay 4 life. When you copy a spell, you can choose somebody to cast a copy of said spell. That's not going to happen. Like that's not good enough to run unless I'm going to share some effects. We're going to do some stuff.
That's the thing. It's like she has to do. You have to use that ability to justify even playing her.
The only thing that I can think of that, so if you could copy curses, this would be fun. Because you can basically just turn it into two-headed giant. Hey, I'm going to cast this curse spell, but I'm going to copy it, but then you're going to do it. So we're going to give lots of these curses away. If you were going to...
I wish we had more demonstrate cards.
Ooh, demonstrate would be good.
We're running all 3 demonstrates that are in this spell, in this
What
colors.
about if you cast the spell and your whole thing was just, hey, I'm going to cast this spell. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to let you copy it, but it can't target me. So
yeah, basically.
And that's all it is. It's just, it's a very good politics commander.
It's great.
But I think that's the only way that it's played. Otherwise, there's not really a whole lot of benefit to it.
I would like to take a look at what people are suggesting, because that's no matter how political and how group huggy we might see a card, the majority of people are always going to try to find some way to make it so it only benefits her controller and never your opponents, which I think is boring, but to me that's like, why? I don't understand.
Yeah.
This is an interesting deck, and who knows, we might talk about her more in the future. That's a really cool idea for a commander.
I do like it. Let's talk about another Jund.
This is the one that everybody's like, look how evil we can make it.
Oh, you see, we're saying evil, and yeah, you can, but also
no, this is the fun card.
Yeah, the Beamtown Bullies. 1 black, red, green for a legendary creature, ogre warrior, 4/4 with vigilance and a haste, which I think is actually the roughest part about this card. The fact that it's got haste is terrifying. Tap it. Target opponent whose turn it is puts target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. It gains haste. Goad it. At the beginning of the next end step, exile it.
Yeah, so everyone's basically designing this deck like Zedru, where they're just trying to
I'm going to give you something terrible.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. To me, that's just by far the most boring way you could possibly build this deck. This is the gift-giving deck.
Admittedly. Boring, fine. Effective, still effective.
I'm not saying it's not effective.
Yeah. We're not, this
Perish
is our quick
the thought
disclaimer.
that players who are trying to win the game at any cost aren't being effective. It's effective, but is it as fun for me? And the answer is no.
Absolutely.
I prefer to think of these guys as like, oh, well, I'm just going to start milling myself, and I'm going to run like 50, 60 creatures in my deck and just start handing them around. Like, oh, you want this one here? This is another Jund commander that I wish that I had instead of my current Jund commander.
I mean, it's going in Vivictus immediately.
Nice.
It's going into Thantis immediately.
What a fun card.
I really like this one. I will say this. It is a cool commander.
Yes.
I don't want to build this commander as a deck. Yeah, I've got more than one Jund deck already, but I don't want to build this because I will fall into the trap too easily.
Of giving them bad stuff?
Not of giving them bad stuff, but of, hey, how do I make this more powerful? You know what I mean? Because this is an effect where it is so open-ended, and the idea of, oh, I'm going to give them something crazy just happens too quickly. And I don't want to do that with a deck like that. I want it to be a silly deck. I want it to have fun. I want to, oh, look, here's this dead thing. Here you go. Like, my favorite thing that I looked at when I first saw this is like, oh, it would be super fun to give somebody a Sakura Tri-Pelter.
Yeah.
You know, like stuff like that.
I mean, considering that it reanimates as basically a sneak attack, I mean, you would just run all these absurdly high, just enormous beaters that you hand to your opponents. You're like, hey, knock yourself out. I mean, it's so cool.
And I said it early, and people might be getting it a little twisted here, where I said the problem that I have with this card is the fact that it has haste. I understand that it has to be somebody else's turn, so the sequencing has to be there. But the fact that you cast this past your turn, and now every opponent that you're looking at is looking at you, and so what are you going to do?
Who can we offload this fine
what are we
dragon
gonna
onto
do?
this
You know
turn?
what I mean? It's 8 up, And I dig it. Don't get me wrong. But
It just makes me sad when people take a perfectly good political group hug commander and turn it into something that it's not, which is fun for the whole table.
I mean, you say that. It's still fun for the whole table.
All right. To our listeners, what creatures would you give your opponents for fun and political purposes? I don't want to hear about all the mean, nasty stuff because I've seen it already.
Right.
What beaters would you give to your opponents so that they can wreak havoc?
Why have we not said this already? We're not talking about havoc. How are we not giving somebody a veteran explorer?
Do you mean the one that we just killed to ramp everybody and now we ramp it again? Yeah.
On turn 1, we cast Veteran Explorer.
Yeah.
On turn 2, we attack into somebody else's mana dork. We kill our Veteran Explorer. We make Beamtown Bullies.
We cast Beamtown Bullies. And then on that
not even turn 3! Turn 2! We got there! Turn 1. Hold on. We have to math this out now.
Like, there's no way.
Turn 1, play a land. Veteran Explorer.
You have to play a land that can make green mana, yes.
No, hold on. Turn 1, play a forest.
Okay.
Veteran Explorer. Turn 2, attack Veteran Explorer into somebody that has a mana dork. Okay? Veteran Explorer dies. You get 2 basics. You play your land drop for your turn. You now have 4 mana. You cast the Beamtown Bullies. And then on somebody else's turn, you give them a Veteran Explorer. It's turn 2.5, and now you've given the entire.
That's how you make the table of 40,
lands.
Mike.
Everybody gets lands.
Mm-hmm.
All of the battle cruiser. Let's go.
Junda gets the best stuff, dude.
Speaking of, Vazi, Keen Negotiator. 2 black, red, green for a 3/3 legendary creature, human advisor with haste. Is anytime it has advisor in the title, I get a little bit worried.
Messed up stuff.
Yeah. Tap. Target opponent creates X treasure tokens, where X is the number of treasure tokens you created this turn. Oh my god. Cool. Whenever an opponent casts a spell or activates an ability, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it or activate it, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, then draw a card.
Yes. This is great.
Here's where I love this. Treasures feel like they are becoming one of the more abused things in
treasures are already completely busted.
Yeah. So this is hey, I'm going to do fair treasure. Cuz it's not for each mana, it's if mana. So if you give somebody 10 treasures and they use 10 treasures to cast into an X spell, you're going to get the benefit of one of those treasures. Not all of them. Cool. So it's not you over abusing anything at the same time. This is just I'm going to make treasure, you're going to make treasure. It's literally a share the wealth deck. And that's pretty interesting to me.
The Rules Committee has name-dropped Dockside Extortionist twice without banning.
It's on the wanted list.
That card is it's a dead goblin walking. I'm gonna be real with you. It might not happen next time or the time after, but is anyone going to be surprised when Dockside Extortionist gets banned? And I think Dockside Extortionist is the best card in this deck.
See, again, is it though? Because I don't, even in my group huggy sense, I don't want to give somebody 8 treasures.
Sure you do.
This card. No, because again, if I give them 8 treasures or I give them 1, it's going to be of the same benefit to me. Unless I can talk them into, okay, I'm going to give you 8 treasures. I need you to use it to cast 4 different spells. Like, I'm getting benefit the same amount of benefit.
Is not only the +1/+1 counter in the card draw, and it's also pumping up and creating this this powerful ally that now has additional mana and probably very little desire to spend it against you. I mean, if
this was every opponent, I'd be fine.
This can get really nasty. That's the other thing is we can look at this. We can see it's an activated ability. It's not an activated mana ability, which means that we can copy it with effects like Illusionist Bracers, which is just disgusting.
You can give everybody you can give people a lot of treasure.
Oh yeah.
It's it's definitely the best Kingmaker deck I can think about.
Well, you're literally the treasurer.
Yeah, if you're playing Kingdoms and you get the Knight, here you go.
Hang on, whatever deck I had before, it's this one now.
My liege, have all of the treasures. Have all of the coffers.
God.
No, Vazi is cool. I don't think that I would run Vazi in the 99. I do think it would be fun to build a deck around.
She does kind of insist on being your commander.
Yeah, because I don't know. How many... I like that there's green in there. I really do. Because up until recently, I felt like green wasn't one of the bigger treasure colors. Black I saw, red I saw. So if it's green, there's not a whole lot of treasure-based commanders I'm really looking at. Well, never mind, Corvold. Corvold likes sacrificing things.
He sure does.
You know what? Vazi's cool. Hey, everybody, if you're playing Corvold, put Vazi in there. It'll be stupid, but it'll be fun.
Just take out Corvold and make Vazi your commander.
Yeah, exactly. Try it. See if it works. It probably won't, but you know what? People aren't going to grow nearly as much when you cast your commander. Moving on. Moving on to probably my favorite named commander, Kit Kanto, Mayhem Diva, 1 red, green, white for a legendary creature, Cat Bard Druid. That's a 3/3. When Kit Kanto enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. At the beginning of combat on each player's turn, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. When you do, target creature that player controls gets +2/+2, gains trample until end of turn. Goad that creature. Cool.
Wow.
Cool. It's neat.
It's Duelist Heritage, the commander.
It is.
Except instead of double strike, it's +2/+2 trample and goad.
Right. Double strike is great.
It is.
No, you don't get to attack me with that thing. Very good.
Yes.
And the fact that you cast this card and it immediately becomes effective with its other abilities is very cool.
This is a forced combat deck. Dyed in the wool. Just goad the things.
The D&D player in me is loving the fact that it is a Tabaxi multi-classed character. It's love.
Yeah, but we also have to talk about that name that you're so happy about. Kit, of course, being cat, and Kanto, of course, being the romantic root for sing, singer, cats,
and then
cat singer,
and then you go into Mayhem Diva. Like that's a dang title.
Didn't we already have a Mayhem Diva? What is Judith? Or Scourge Diva?
Scourge Diva.
Oh, we got Scourge Diva and Mayhem Diva.
See, here's the thing. Scourge, you're there to be a problem.
Right.
You want people to be upset with you. Mayhem Diva, mayhem is like chaos. It can be great. It just means people don't understand. Everything's all crazy. Kit Kanto is very good. Also, like, way to make... If you told me, hey, here is the name of this card, but they took away the art, and then I had to pick the art from the set.
A cat lounge singer. It's like perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is the one art that for sure, if I didn't know and I had to play the matching game, I would have gotten this one on the first try.
There you go.
Very cool.
We have another cat,
hit me up.
Don't we? Thebane Boss's Confidants. Which is a 3 red, green, white, 6 mana for a legendary creature, Cat Advisor. There's that Advisor subtype again.
Something bad.
She's a 3/6 with creature tokens you control have haste.
That's terrifying.
And
continue.
One of my favorite ability words of all time, Parlay.
Ooh.
Parlay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each land card revealed this way, you create a 1/1 green-white citizen creature token. And then creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn for each non-land card revealed this way. Then each player draws a card. That's the thing about Parlay, right? Is no matter how awesome it is for you, you're still making everyone draw a card, which I just love.
This is scary.
This goes wide in the terrifying fashion.
It's scary. Like, just the idea of, hey, it's a 3/6 for 6. Cast it. Great. Combat. Cool. I'm going to make 2 1/1s and... Man, 2 1/1s that get +2/+2 and then draw a card just off of an average, right? That's pretty nuts. And being able to repeat that at combat.
Yeah,
Woo!
take multiple combats, copying the trigger. This is a trigger that you'd love to get multiple times.
I'd like Fabian. Fabian is gonna be definitely gonna be definitely in a 99. Probably gonna be something that I want to actually make a deck out of in the future. Because it's interesting. And Parlay always deserves to be played when it can be. Let's move on to our next color set here. Kroos, Defense Contractor. 1 green, white, blue for a 2/4 Cat Advisor. More advisors.
This is the Cat Advisors is so dangerous.
Yeah, they're man, the cats are out to play. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a shield counter on target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a creature you don't control, tap that creature and goad it. It gains trample until your next turn. So, talk to me about this card.
Well, right off the bat, we have very much an enforced political commander, right? This isn't one that you can play to your own advantage exclusively. You have to play the politics game because, number one, on your upkeep, you're giving an opponent's creature a shield counter. Let's go over what a shield counter is. That's the next time that creature would take damage or be destroyed, instead remove a shield counter.
Yep.
Which basically makes it indestructible, effectively.
Yeah, it's a one-time no.
Right. And then whenever you put 1 or more counters on a creature you don't control, for example, at the beginning of your upkeep, you'll tap that creature, goad it, and it gains trample. So you're not just giving them out from the goodness of your heart, right? This is another, man, so much combat in this set. You're forcing that creature to attack in, it's gaining trample, and it effectively has indestructible once. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you don't even have to necessarily be playing with shield counters. You could play this as +1/+1 counters, start handing those out. Yep. Any kind of counter that you put out. Now you're also goading, you're also giving it trample, and you're just creating utter chaos. These are kind of starting to blend together, Mike. All these different goading commanders and all the different guilds. Why is goad such a prevalent keyword across multiple different guilds?
Because it's fun.
It is fun.
And we've been talking about this forever. We've talked about how
I know,
cool
we've been
goad
talking about
is
goad
as
for
an
so
effect.
long.
I'm so happy to see, like, I get it as a theme for this set where it's like, oh, we're talking about mafia families and, oh, we're gonna literally defense contractor. I'm gonna protect you, but you're gonna go attack somebody for me. Like, I love that theme, and I'm happy that goad is big in this set. Here's the other part of it. The first time I read this card, I was really bummed out that it said upkeep instead of end step. Because I was excited for this to be
turn.
Yeah, I was excited for this to be played, and then if I didn't have anything else, if there was, maybe this is on curve and it's whatever. I was kind of bummed out. Then I thought about proliferate, and then I thought about Atraxa, and then I thought about all of the things and all of the items where you can give stuff things that we normally play because it's fun. But now there's a better benefit to it. I will absolutely pump up another creature, give it a +1/+1 counter, and then goad it.
That's the thing, is once you start spreading those counters around, like you said, proliferate is going to trigger that ability for every single creature that it hits, which is as many creatures as have counters that you're willing to hit, which could be most or all of them, depending on what you're doing,
what they're doing.
And for all of those, you're tapping them all down, you're goading all of them, and they all gain trample.
Well, and not just that, this still has an Alpha Strike ability to it. Because if you're able to put counters on stuff that other people control,
right,
you're tapping it. So if I can tap opponent, if I'm player 1, if I can tap down a good portion of player 4's board, even if they're the one who has all the goated creatures, player 2 and 3 have a good opportunity to get in some damage to them.
Right.
And then on the crackback, guess who's not going to be worried about it as much? Me, because their things are goated. Kroos is a really fun card. Like, another one of those, I would run it as the commander. I'd run it in the 99 for a bunch of decks if I was playing, if I was playing a +1/+1 counters deck or whatever I'm playing. I'd be totally fine with that. This is a very cool card. And another one where the art is just like, this is such a snide looking cat. Just giving a grin.
What does he have to be happy about?
Yeah. Well, you know what he has to be happy about? He knows no one's coming after him because they're buying his shields. And as part of it, they're not going to mess with them. I'll tell you what. Talk to me about our last commander here.
Yeah, we only have one more card,
and it's not an advisor. So let's go back to basics here.
It's not even a cat.
Yeah, lame, boo.
Lagrella the Magpie. This is green, white, blue, 3 mana. For a legendary creature human soldier, she's a 2/3. When Lagrella the Magpie enters the battlefield, exile any number of other target creatures controlled by different players until Lagrella leaves the battlefield. When an exiled card enters the battlefield under your control this way, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. That wording feels a little bit confusing and ambiguous, but it's actually quite clear. You will choose up to 1 target creature for each opponent you have. Right? For each opponent, you can choose 0 or 1 of their creatures. And it's, what's that, excellent instant speed effect? What's it called? Grasp of Fate. Yeah. This is a very nice Grasp of Fate effect, except when it comes back under your control, it's getting the +2/+2. Now, first thing to keep in mind, it's an uncommon commander. Uncommon commanders tend to have very toned down power levels compared to rare and mythic rare commanders. That being said, does she fit in the 99 as a Grasp of Fate in 3 colors that's repeatable?
Man.
Maybe.
It's just, it feels like a really good way to be a target.
Right. And no shenanigans here. This is a single unified trigger, so you cannot permanently exile things with Lagrella.
Yeah, you can't permanently exile, and if you blink, you're bringing stuff back. You're not going to, you're not, exactly. So you're not going to be in a spam it away to where, okay, great. This is, unless you're endlessly blinking Lagrella to just make things ridiculously big. I don't know. It's an interesting commander. I can't wrap my head around the way that I would make it work all the time. But I would absolutely include it in decks in the 99 as a creature-based Grasp of Fate. Or O-Ring. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I would absolutely put it in there as a... like, you have your Vanifar deck where it's... And I know the colors don't match. But you have your Vanifar deck where it's built off of creatures.
Right.
That's it. It's creatures, lands.
Yep.
And the creatures do cool things. I would absolutely run Lagrella in a creatures-only cool effects deck.
Sure. Because this is very much a unique... I mean, we've had Fiend Hunter, we've had O-Ring creatures before. We've never had one that hit every player like Grasp of Fate can.
Well, Well, up to, and that's the part that that's making me lean into it. You can absolutely, you can leave some people out of it if it's not going to benefit them.
Right.
You can also pump stuff up for people if they're okay with it, depending on what you're playing. So is Lagrella, if you're running this as your commander,
what do you mean pump
stuff
up for people? What do you mean by that?
So when an exiled card enters the battlefield this way under your control. Okay, so I misunderstood. Got it. So you're pumping up your stuff when you're doing that.
I would have liked it a lot better if it was whenever any player gets their exiled creature back and pumps it, because that'd be really cool. But it just doesn't work that way. So back to your question before I so rudely interrupted.
No, not at all. Thank you for putting me back on the right track here. So is Lagrella just like, if this is your commander, are you building just a blink-based deck with this?
Yeah, I think that's...
Blink, bounce, phase, just all of the Lagrella's not here.
Are you running O-Ring Tribal in this deck?
I think so. Like, Lagrella seems like they would be a good... I'm thinking more stacks than anything, and I'm just trying to mirror box and all of the effects where I'm trying to make as many copies of Lagrella as I can. Just an army of human soldiers that exile other stuff.
Yeah.
Man, it's a cool card though. As far as a 3-mana 2/3 O-Ring, it's great.
Yeah. That's the interesting thing about uncommon commanders, right? Is they're definitely weaker, but they can also have these very unique effects on them.
Sure. No, that of that we can agree. So I'll tell you what, Alex. That's it. We got through them.
We did them all.
50 cards. So I'll tell you what, we only talked about one other legendary creature in our other episode on this set review, which was Urabrask.
Yes.
So we could put Urabrask in here too if you want.
Sure.
What's your favorite commander of the 11 we've talked about in this set?
Jeez.
I know.
That is a difficult one, right? Because when I started seeing all these, I'm like, oh my God, how many political commanders could they possibly squeeze into this set? Turns out quite a few. A lot of them. I think that I've kind of naturally been gravitating toward Parnese, the subtle brush. Parmesan. Somebody is going to make me feel very silly by giving me the correct pronunciation at some point, I hope.
If it means anything at all, I've listened to and watched a couple of different set reviews about this.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard the same name, like pronunciation, like twice.
Okay.
For this,
so
for this card.
No one agrees.
So there might be obviously there is a definitive name.
Sure.
But I think we're all in the dark for the time being, so we're just going to be okay.
We'll just call her the subtle brush.
The subtle brush.
The subtle brush is a very unique idea for a commander, a demonstrate commander that I think that if I don't see people building her in that political group hug way where we want people to be copying spells for shenanigans, for deals and benefits and all the things we love to do, if I just don't see that happening, maybe I get inspired to start drafting a list for her. I don't know. I'm not committing to that, but she is exciting.
She's interesting, at the very least. There is a uniqueness in a demonstrate commander.
Don't say your favorite one is Lord Xander.
Oh no, but it is. No. No, it's okay. I haven't reached Dark Side yet. I will say this. I think my favorite commander is it's probably Kit Kanto.
It's Kit Kanto.
Like I want to, like I'm looking at it and I just can't. Like here's the thing, Jolene isn't my favorite commander.
Which is your favorite name?
But it's my favorite 99.
Yeah.
Out of the ones that we talked about, and then I look at Kroos and I'm like, Kroos is actually like I want to make that deck. But Kit Kanto is a cat bard druid. It's the Mayhem Diva. Like. If Kit Kanto is the Mayhem Diva, was a 4-mana 3/3, and that was it, I'd still find an excuse to run it into something. So the fact that it's a legendary creature that does cool stuff, well, all right.
Yeah.
I like it.
We really have our pick of the litter here with political commanders, which is just so cool.
For sure. There's going to be some interesting stuff that's built out of this.
I haven't looked at the list of the precons very closely this year, but if you have, can you comment, like, did these decks just ooze politics, or is this just alternate commander, alternate not supported playstyle?
From what I've seen, and I haven't gone through all of it, I think they made, and this will be fun for us to figure out for sure. It feels like what they made was the social contracts versions of an EDH game with precons. Because it just felt like a whole lot of onboard negotiations and goad and interact with a player and choose a player and vote and a whole lot of stuff like that. To where the entire decks are... So we got really excited about the Strixhaven Orzhov deck.
We did.
The
Silver Quill.
Because they made a political deck. Right?
Right.
And I think one of the things they realize is like, hey, this is a cool deck, but for it to be able to hang with other precons, it also needs to be pretty powerful in comparison because it's a political deck, which is a little bit harder, or you have to throw other things that aren't so political based in there. And I feel like what I've seen so far about these precons is these are so built to work with each other on a very similar theme. Different ways, obviously, with the three color commanders on everything. Mm-hmm. But they are all built to interact with each other. And interaction in this set is conversations, it's deals, sometimes because that's the best way of doing it, and sometimes because the card literally has truce in the title of the card. So it's been pretty cool to see as far as a theme for a set, they've really stuck to it into the commanders as well. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it's really good to see them leading into politics. Obviously, we didn't like every single card that got printed, but I mean, we've had more cards in this set that we were excited about than in pretty much any previous set review.
Oh, for sure.
To my knowledge,
it's 50 cards.
It's 50 cards, and bravo! Honestly, we're over the moon with just how cool all these political effects are. We've got the voting, we've got the goading, we've got treasure, we've got make people's lives completely miserable if that's up your alley, Lord Xander. Yeah,
this has been a very and here's the thing. Now that we have it, here's what'll happen. Either the reception on this set is going to be really good, and this is going to be really fun, and people are going to really like it. And you and I think a lot of the people that listen to us are definitely going to be in on that.
Sure.
Or a mass majority of people are going to hate this set because of the politics, because of the everything else.
I think they just do everything they can to ignore the politics, which is so weird to me.
But here's the thing. If they do that, and the cards that do get play in this set and the cards that people do care about in this set are the, each land you control has tap, add a treasure, and that's what gets through. Guess what? Wizards is going to see that, and those are going to be the kind of cards that come out, and not our political, silly, everybody gets treasures, everybody gets gold, everybody gets stuff deck. So, if you like this deck, if you like this set, let us know. We'll proposition Wizards. Hey, look at all the people that love this stuff. Please give us more of this.
We got 20 guys who love this set. Look at that.
5 years from now, the next time that you're making a new set, and you can use this data.
When you're making Conspiracy Take the Crown 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Battle Bond 2. Let's go.
Battle Bond 2. Let's go.
That's actually what the title of it has been called. I realize I've said "Let's Go" like several times today, but that's because spoiler alert: Battle Bond 2 Let's Go coming 2028. I don't know. Anyway, Alex, if people want to talk to you about me being a ridiculous person or some of the cool political things they can do with cards, or some judge questions, or just see what you're building, how are they going to reach you?
Sure, you can find me on Twitter at Lappermedic, LAPPERMEDIC. You can, of course, catch me on our Discord, which Mike will give us in a second. You can also check out, if you're interested in infinite combos, locking the game out, using all these fun new political cards to make people's lives miserable. Well, you know where to go. CommanderSpellbook.com is a search engine for EDH combos, and we have new Capenna combos out in force. So if that sounds interesting to you, please go check us out. And Mike, if they want to talk to us and our family on Discord, where would they go for that?
So they're going to actually go to our link in the show notes.
Nice.
Because unfortunately, Discord links, if I say
It's
it out
too
to you,
long.
it's just going to
Yeah.
it's going to be a jumble of letters. None of that's going to.
We're not a partner.
But something that will help you. bit.ly/EDH_social. That's where you're going to be able to buy all of the cards that we've talked about, all the sleeves that you need to get for those cards, play mats to put those cards on, etc. Oh, wait, deck boxes to put those cards in. See, I knew I was going to miss something. That's where you're going to go to our TCG Player affiliate link. You'll be able to get all the cards you were going to get anyway, but you'll be able to help out the show in doing so. You can also reach us on Twitter at EDH_social, or you can email us at thesocialcontractedh@gmail.com. Also, last bit here, I didn't tell Alex that I was doing this.
Oh my gosh.
I told him, I've hinted at it a couple of times. If you're a YouTube person, I'm working on it. I've got several videos uploaded with the background. So we're gonna be able to put our podcast on YouTube as well.
Oh my gosh.
And depending on if we see you there, maybe that's where we're gonna be doing, more YouTube kind of content, and maybe post some of the games that we've played with people on Twitch in the past, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Because I want to get back into a format where we can start playing on our on Twitch, so we can do all of the other stuff here. And the first step of that is getting the podcast itself uploaded onto YouTube. Know that is in the works. There's already a few episodes loaded. I'm going to fine tune a couple of things, and then I'll give you the link in the near future.
I'm so excited.
Excited to expand a little bit further and do a couple more things. Excited for this set and expanding a couple of decks. And hope that you all had a good time. Until next time.
To our listeners, though, one last note: if any of these commanders or precons really caught your eye, tell us about it, and maybe we'll be inspired to talk about it on a future episode. Right? We could do a commander upgrade or a deck tech if our listeners wanted it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get in the Discord. That's where we're going to see you the easiest. And then you can get in everywhere else, and you can hit us up there. Here, just spam us with request. I'm fine with it. I'll read it all. Down for it. Right now, I want quantity. Give it all.
He asked for
until
it.
you get until that point. Now we'll talk to you soon.